there, this is Doctor, and welcome to the It's Wrestling Time Post Show. It is Thursday, January 18, 2024, and tonight I'll be talking about TNA Impact Wrestling, and I'm joined by JJ.
Hi, everybody.
So I was really excited about tonight. I was there live, so it was really fun to rewatch this episode. I saw myself a few times during tonight's episode, so that was a lot of fun.
I wasn't really sure where to look for you, but I did try scanning the crowd a few times.
I was on the ramp. I
Okay.
was on the ramp. Where Frankie Kazarian's walking up the ramp?
hmm
I was on I guess on the left. You could see the back of me and holding up my phone.
Right on.
So. So anywho, let's kick things off talking about Nic Nemeth, who made his debut in TNA, but tonight he cut a promo. That was interesting because he was talking about how he was very fortunate to rack up a lot of accomplishments in 19 years, but he did it all under one world. Obviously, he can't say WWE, but he alluded to it.
Right.
Now, he said that he picked his time and place and he lined up face to face with the TNA World Champion, which was Moose here. I have that on tape if anybody wants to check it out on my YouTube channel. And he says that he basically makes it clear that his goal is to become TNA World Champion. Now, he gets interrupted by Steve Maclin, which I also uploaded on my YouTube channel if anyone wants to check that out. And basically, Steve Maclin makes it known that he's not going to allow Nic Nemeth to walk in there and basically take that TNA World title. Now, it seems to me like this might be his first feud coming into TNA, and as Nic Nemeth himself says, he wants to earn the right to challenge for that world title. So, what were your thoughts on Nic Nemeth's promo and Steve Maclin interrupting him?
I thought Nick put a lot of thought and heart into his promo. You can tell that he's kind of happy to be out of the system, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And, kind of breathing a little bit freer, getting to be himself. Steve Maclin interrupting, you knew somebody was going to interrupt it. I mean, obviously you knew, you were there, but it's like the whole setup is like you've got to get that first feud ready for Nick, and I felt like you don't want to drop him down too low, even though he's willing to work his way to the title shot. You want to give him some quality opposition right out the gate, and I felt like Maclin was a good choice.
I agree. Maclin is a great choice. Maclin himself is a former Impact World Champion, so that was definitely an interesting choice for them to set him up with Maclin. Now, I don't know how it came across on TV, but on my end, the boos were loud for Steve Maclin. Me personally, I was not booing Steve Maclin because I like Steve Maclin, so I didn't boo him.
Yeah, it seemed like the boos were pretty heavy. I love the fact that he said that, and I'm paraphrasing here, I didn't write down word for word his promo, but basically that Maclin said when it's all said and done, no one's going to remember Nic Nemeth. Everyone's going to ask what happened to Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah,
I thought that was
uploaded
a
that
great
part.
line.
It was. I uploaded that part onto my YouTube channel if anybody wants to check it out. I'll probably upload all of Steve Maclin's promo after this. But
Yeah,
overall, I thought
was really good.
it was. Overall, I thought this was a fantastic segment promo. I cannot wait to see the rivalry that unfolds between Nic Nemeth and Steve Maclin.
I think it'll be interesting if we see a little bit more as far as like Ziggler references, because we know that TNA streaming is under Endeavor, which is the same with WWE. So it might be part of the deal and being under the same umbrella where they can actually mention Dolph Ziggler, WWE, the championships that he's held over there without getting into trouble over it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So it'll be interesting to see what happens as we go forward in this storyline.
definitely. And I can't talk too much about it because I don't want to spoil what happens next week. So I gotta.
Good girl.
My lips are sealed there. So Christopher says more people need to give TNA more credit. Yeah, they need to give credit. Seriously. So now let's talk about Will Ospreay versus Josh Alexander too. I don't know if you saw the first one, but in the first one, Will Ospreay defeated Josh Alexander. So Josh Alexander got the win here, but this match was freaking incredible. To watch this live was freaking amazing. That table spot, oh my god, I caught that spot on tape, which I'm gonna upload shortly onto my YouTube channel. But holy smokes, like where I was close to the ramp, so I was like, oh my god, like this match was freaking insane. I really like the fact that Josh Alexander did the Styles Clash to Will Ospreay on that TNA logo. That was freaking cool.
Yeah, that was like a nice little tip of the hat there.
It definitely was to AJ Styles.
The phenomenal one, Mr. TNA.
Mm-hmm. So at the end of the match, like Scott D'Amore basically comes out and he praises Will Ospreay and Josh Alexander, and he basically talks about how TNA never died because of Josh and because Will is a TNA kid, and he says that TNA is back and is never going away. What are your thoughts on that?
I loved it.
Me too.
Scott D'Amore, you could feel the emotion coming out of his voice, and I wish more promoters cut those type of promos. We don't really get that kind of thing in the WWE from Triple H, or even when Vince was around. You don't get that kind of thing from Tony Khan. The last time I really heard a promoter cut that type of promo was the Raw before Survivor Series 01, when Paul Heyman just lit Vince a new one in the middle of the ring on that go home show. That
Yeah, this. Oh,
that moment right there, that was 23 years ago, this year. So you could just feel it coming out of Scott D'Amore, though, and he's absolutely right. I mean, how many times while it was Impact Wrestling were people still calling it TNA?
mm-hmm. A lot of times there was a TNA chance, and I'm sure Lucha shed a little tear. Shout out to Lucha if you're watching. He shed a little tear hearing those TNA chants. But overall, I thought the match was incredible. This was a great way to end tonight's episode. And what a return! If you did not watch tonight's show, you definitely missed out.
Definitely. That match was insane. Definitely puts last night's main event to shame, and I will just leave it at that.
All right, but tonight's Impact kicked off with the six-way X Division Scramble match. It was Kushida versus Speedball Mike Bailey versus Jake Something versus Laredo Kid versus El Hijo de Vikingo versus Trey Miguel. This match was incredible. I mean, just goes to show you the diversity in talent in the X Division. There's no limits in the X Division. This was freaking amazing. Like, Jake Something was victorious, and I cannot wait to see what Jake Something does in 2024. I honestly think he will become X Division champion in this year. This is his year.
I definitely agree that he impressed me. I hadn't really seen Jake Something before this match. Most of the other people I was familiar with. I think Laredo Kid's the only other one I wasn't that familiar with prior to this, but Vikingo, seen on AEW, Kushida, of course, Speedball, of course. The others I was pretty well familiar with, but Jake Something impressed the hell out of me. I don't know what I see going on for him as far as this year, but I definitely see big things down the road.
I do agree. I think there's going to be big things for Jake Something. He did get a victory over he did pin Laredo Kid for this victory, so maybe something will be there, especially since Speedball Mike Bailey and Laredo Kid teamed up doing Hard to Kill. So we'll see. We'll go see what happens with that.
Yeah, definitely.
So we got Will Ospreay interview, and he's basically just talking about how like TNA is the reason that he became a professional wrestler, and he's a world beater. And he asked if Josh Alexander can handle the pressure. Of course, this is to set up their main event match in the end of the night. What were your thoughts on this?
Again, the line that really resonated with me was when he mentioned how every company has their own world beater. and basically alluded to, "Are you this company's?"
Mm-hmm.
Because he called himself a world beater. Osprey's a world beater. It's like, so every company's got one. Are
Yeah,
you the one for this company? And I thought that was a great little tease to set up the victory at the end of the night by
yeah,
Alexander pinning Osprey. There's no argument that he's now a world beater if he wasn't before.
that's true. And it's such a shame that we probably won't get a third match out of them. Ugh, such a shame.
Why couldn't we get a third match? I know
That's true.
Osprey has signed a deal with AEW, but that deal doesn't begin until his New Japan deal ends, and I think he's New Japan at least through the end of February, if what I'm reading is true. No surrenders before the end of February.
Yeah, maybe we might. Who knows? Hopefully. So we get a quick Gisele Shaw segment. And basically, like, she's interrupted by Gail Kim. And Gail Kim kind of basically tells her that the Shataraj is holding her back and that the Gisele Shaw who won Ultimate X is the Gisele Shaw she knows. Now, I have to say, 2024 is definitely going to be the year of Gisele Shaw. She's had a hell of a year. And this is a year I'm going to make a prediction. This is a year she becomes Knockouts champion. It's only a matter of time before she does so. Now, it's interesting that Gail Kim did bring up the Shataraj holding her back. I don't think Giselle Shaw ever needed the Shataraj, but they can add to her, add, you know, if they create, especially if they create, like, I know Lucha, my co-host over on TNA that we bought up, if they add like a 6-person titles, I could see them becoming that. But so, what are your thoughts on this and on the Shataraj?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask. I've never been high on Giselle Shaw. I've never been high on the Shaw Taraz. I did like Gail pointing out that she was able to do this without them and allude to the fact that she didn't need them. Maybe that would help change my opinion of her, is seeing her do more without essentially the Wish version of the baddies. But, I've just never been big on Giselle Shaw.
I like Giselle Shaw. She's a fantastic wrestler. Um, she's a fantastic wrestler. But her it was I will say this, it was definitely an interesting pairing adding her with the Shataraj. I was not expecting them to create the Shataraj. So it would be interesting to see if they do dissolve going forward based on what Gail Kim told Giselle Shaw.
That's fair.
Yeah. So we get Tasha Steelz versus Xia Brookside. Now this was an incredible debut by Xia Brookside. Wasn't too familiar with her at all. So I was impressed by this. She got a massive victory over Tasha Steelz, who is a former knockout champion herself.
Yeah, I'd seen Tasha a few times, never seen Xia in action. All I knew of Xia Brookside was last year at some point, I forget what months it was. Big Baller G, you know him, friend of the Jeff Meacham Network, was promoting Xia Brookside as a autograph signing for the Parker Kane Promotions that he works with. So her name would always pop up in the ads that we'd run to promote it for him. Other than that, I knew nothing of her, but the name recognition was definitely there from doing all those plugs. And I was impressed. I was impressed. The one
Definitely.
thing that kind of brought me down in this match was seeing Tasha Steelz do the Three Amigos and not being able to pop the hips properly to keep it going. It's like, come on, girl, you gotta be able to pop them hips if you're doing the Three Amigos. That's part of the trademark right there.
At least she tried.
She did try. She did better than most. But if she had had the hips popping properly, it would have been so much better, I think. Little nitpicky thing, but I used to do the Three Amigos back in the day, so kind of
Oh,
special to me. So,
okay, okay. We get Joe Henry, which is
oh
interesting
god,
because you
here we
don't
go.
believe in Joe Henry. I believe in
Here
Joe
we
Henry.
go. And he believes in you. That's all that
I know.
matters.
So you remember at the Countdown to Hard to Kill, Joe Henry was attacked by AJ Francis and DJ Woo Kid. So it seems like he got his revenge on DJ Wu Kid because he threw out the laptop with the rest of the trash, as he says. So I feel like this is obviously going to set up Joe Henry versus AJ Francis, probably at No Surrender. I think that's what this is leading to.
Probably so. I will say that the video that he made for AJ Francis was funny. I do enjoy his creativity when it comes to those. His creativity is usually pretty on point. And then seeing DJ Wu Kid in the trash can with the laptop, I thought was pretty funny too. But jury is still out as to whether or not I believe in Joe Hendry. But I will say this was a pretty funny segment.
You will end up believing in 252 pounds of pure motivation and the answer to all the life's problems.
We'll see. Don't get ahead of yourself. See, I still believe that come the Tuesday after Vengeance Day, you will continue to watch NXT.
We'll see about that.
But I'm also not sitting here boasting about it like I'm 100% guaranteed. Like you seem to be so guaranteed that I will believe in Joe Hendry. So
We'll see. We'll see. We get the Grizzled Young Vets versus Eric Young and Frankie Kazarian. Now, the Grizzled Young Vets had a good showing at Hard to Kill, and they had a great showing here. I mean, they pretty much dominated that match. They
yeah, they
isolated
did.
Frankie Kazarian from Eric Young here. Now, it seems to me like the Grizzled Young Vets are obviously after those TNA tag team titles. They sent a message to ABC not only at Hard to Kill, but here tonight. And so they did get the victory here. Now, the interesting thing is that Frankie Kazarian did turn on Eric Young at the end. He attacked him, with the fade to black. And he says this is supposed to be his year. I'm not sure if you are aware, but Frankie Kazarian, his whole point of coming back to TNA was to win the world title. So obviously 2024 is not off to a great start for him. He lost at Hard to Kill. He lost here. So very curious to see what they do with this heel turn of Frankie Kazarian. But what were your thoughts on this match and on Frankie Kazarian turning on Eric Young?
This is the match that I was most torn between the entire match because my love for Frankie Kazarian is well known, at least over on my side of things. I'm sure your fans don't know how far back we go with Frankie Kazarian and how he's always been kind of close to us. But the Grizzled Young Vets, man, that was my NXT. Watching them as part of the schism, they were the dyad over there. So it was like I was really looking forward to seeing what they could do now that they've gotten away from the system. I've always heard Noah Foster talk them up about how great the Grizzled Young Vets were, but had never really been able to see them outside of the schism. So it's like, on the one hand, I want these guys to win because they're so badass. And on the other hand, I want my friend to win because I've known him for 20 plus years. But it was a damn good match. I agree with you about Frankie being dominated. That was perfect for Grizzled Young Vets to do. I know you watch it on YouTube, so you get it commercial free, unedited. Unfortunately, on my end of things, watching it on Access, the pinfall was registered during commercial break.
Okay.
So I didn't even get to see like what happened for the pinfall, and they didn't replay it because they went straight to the Frankie heel turn.
Oh, okay.
So that was kind of a bummer on my side of things. Same thing when D'Amore came out. D'Amore came out and started talking, and it was like commercial. And then they came back and, we're kind of like in the midst of it, but you could figure out kind of what was going on. Just the timing on Access for commercials was not very good whatsoever.
Well, I wouldn't know because I don't have Access TV.
Blah blah blah. I know. I could watch the YouTube stream too because I still have Noah's account logged in on my thing, so I may go do that going forward, especially if I decide to stick around and keep watching it past No Surrender.
Fair trade. So we get a system segment where they're basically just having what seems like lunch or dinner at some restaurant in Las Vegas. And they're talking about how they prove that the system works and not one person, not even Nic Nemeth, will be able to stop them. Moose doesn't want to be known as a wrestling god. He just wants to be known as TNA World Champion. What were your thoughts on this?
I thought it was humorous. I didn't know what they were calling themselves, and if they dropped the name during the promo, I didn't catch it. So thank you for letting me know what they're called, the system. But I just thought the whole promo was hilarious. Watching them at a restaurant in Vegas, probably a buffet, that they just found a corner in and were able to set up shop to film it. I thought it was a good little precursor to what's to come down the road for them.
I definitely would like to see how far the system goes. I mean, Moose is TNA World Champion. Will Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards become tag team champions? Will Alicia become, knockout champion? It'll be interesting to see where they go with the system, because Moose has a habit of turning his back on his tag team partners. So he did say it's a new beginning, but we'll see.
Yeah. They always say that.
Mm-hmm. So you get a quick Jordynne Grace interview, and basically this whole interview is supposed to set up her rematch with Trinity next week. And Trinity makes it known that she's going to be walking out as TNA Knockout Champion. So what are your thoughts on this segment?
Business as usual kind of thing. Like, you knew Trin needed her rematch before her contract expires. So they're going to give the rematch, let Jordynne go over her again, solidifying her as champion. Not only did I beat you, but I beat you twice. And then realistically, if everything goes the way rumors say, she's going to show up in the Women's Rumble 3 days later.
I can't comment too much on this without giving away what happens next week. So I'm just going to not comment any further.
That's fair.
And lastly, we have a J Vidal segment. I don't know if you know this, but J Vidal is actually from Las Vegas.
Yes, I caught him saying that.
So I kind of thought they were going to give him a hometown moment here, but he quickly turned on the crowd, and he said that the audience reminded him why he left that disgusting city in the first place. And PCO, like Frankenstein, comes out and basically proceeds to beat him up.
This was one of the highlights of the night for me. Like, legit. I have nothing against Jay Vidal. This was the first time I had seen him. Kind of like you. As soon as he said he was from Vegas, I was like, okay, little hometown pop for the kid. Maybe they'll give him a little jobber match. Didn't realize he was going to be the jobber.
Jay Vidal is actually a pretty good wrestler.
Brought out PCO, who, of course, like you said, the modern day Frankenstein. I have a passion for the Universal Monsters, so I connect with PCO just based on that. Watching him come out, watching them do the electrodes to kind of get him awoken and him rising, just the whole thing was good. Often when I do my AEW reviews, I talk about the squash matches that they throw in there and how for most of the time it's a waste of time. I felt like this was a squash match that was done right. There's a good way and a bad way to do a squash match, and I just thought this was perfect. Came out there, cut a promo, turned heel on his hometown crowd, paid the price for it.
Jay Vidal is hilarious. Like, if you haven't seen him, he's actually, like I said earlier, he's actually a pretty good wrestler.
I believe you, and I haven't seen him, so I believe you, but just there was still story in the squash.
Yeah.
And most squash matches, there's zero story whatsoever.
Yeah.
Is Jay Vidal going to be a heel going forward? Or is this just going to be something that's overlooked the next time he goes out there?
That's right.
You know what I mean?
So let me kind of fill you in. I don't know if he technically is the heel. He's actually a part of the Shawtarage.
Okay. Because he came off as a face, but it was probably just because he was psyching the crowd up.
Yeah, he's a part of the Shots Raja alongside
Okay.
Savannah Evans. So he's a heel.
Okay. Then that
Yeah.
makes sense then, because for someone who was just tuning in, that wasn't made clear coming out there. So he came off as a baby face who then turned heel on the crowd.
No.
So thank you for clearing that up.
You're welcome. Well, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and stop there because we already talked about the main event. But overall, I really enjoyed tonight's show. It was a lot of fun rewatching this episode. Like I said, I was there in Las Vegas. So it was a lot of fun. On a scale from a 1 to a Sean Spears perfect 10, I definitely give this a perfect 10. It's a great show, top to bottom. And I cannot wait for everybody to watch next week's episode. I think you guys will definitely enjoy it. And Eric Young said it at the beginning of Heartica, and I'm going to go ahead and say it here. People need to stop sleeping on TNA wrestling. If you're still sleeping on TNA wrestling after tonight's episode, you have I don't know what more to say or what to tell you, but stop sleeping on TNA Impact.
That's fair. That's fair.
So, what were your overall thoughts on the show? I'm curious to hear what you thought.
Well, considering
yeah, that's so true because we were there.
I was going to say, considering I watched it on television and not YouTube, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. And that's only because the bad edits and times to, like I said, they went to commercial right when they were supposed to do the finish of the Grizzled Young Vets match. I missed part of D'Amore's promo because they went to commercial. Like, bad timing cues. I don't know if it was an access problem or a TNA problem and they need to time their shows out better. But that's the only reason I'm taking points off. Otherwise, it would probably be, if not a 10, maybe a 9.5, like you gave that first episode of NXT I made you watch. So
yeah.
It would be a lot higher though if it wasn't for those things. And like I said, I don't know if that's an access issue or if that's TNA timing.
All right, well,
not
fair
knowing
enough.
how to properly time the show out.
Fair enough. That's a fair point.
But overall, I thought top to bottom, it was a damn good show. I am looking forward to tuning in next week. So it's like I said in the chat with us earlier, it's like I was already looking forward to it because it was the first Impact back under the new TNA rebranding. Then I saw the Grizzled Young Vets match. Then I saw the Cross the Line music was coming back. And it's like all these little things just like made me more and more want to tune in tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a good job. We'll see what happens next week.
Yay!
Hopefully next week won't completely tank, the show. So.
All right. So as we get ready to sign off, JJ, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram, the Renegade JJ Williams. You can find me on Twitter, ROWJJ Williams. You can find me on YouTube, Casa D18 Studios. I do my own wrestling reviews every Monday through Friday right now, at least for the time being, on 9 o'clock a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. I've promised Datilla that because she is watching NXT and reviewing them, with the exception of this week, which understand the reason why you weren't able to. But, since she's doing all that, I will continue to watch Impact and review it until No Surrender. And we'll just kind of see what happens come Vengeance Day and No Surrender, respectively. If we keep on going because we've gotten hooked, or if we're like, all right, deal's over. Going to go back to having my knife free again.
Since they would do a good job next week. Hell yeah, they are. Shit, I can't comment about next week because I would give it away. But
yeah,
you guys are in for a treat next week. I think.
Now, let me ask you. At the top of the show, you said you were excited to talk about this one.
Mm-hmm.
Were you more excited to talk about it tonight because you were there, or because it was my first time watching and you were curious to hear my thoughts about it?
Both.
Okay.
As for myself, you guys, I am on the road to 1,000 subscribers, so help me get there, please.
Yes.
And Also, to going forward, I will be covering Impact Wrestling on Body Slam alongside Burt Macklin, who is my co-host from TNA IW. So make sure I will be posting the links on my community post. Make sure you keep an eye out for those. I probably will still do Impact here on my channel, but probably just stick to the pay-per-views and plus specials. The weekly show, like I said, will be covered exclusively on Body Slam. I think starting with this episode, I think after this, we're going to go film our debut episode. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. As for myself, thank you guys all so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell so you get notified whenever I go live or release a new video. And I will see you guys tomorrow after SmackDown. Bye.